What is going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Spurs have squeezed into the fourth round, beating Burnley 1-0 in the FA Cup. A goal from Pedro Porro winning it, but look, it was definitely a tense game. It was a close game, especially with Burnley having a chance right at the end to equalise from a corner, but Spurs just about getting over the line. I'm here with Barnaby Slater to talk about the game. This is our instant match reaction. Look, Barnaby, it was definitely not a vintage Tottenham display, was it, throughout the 90 minutes? Albeit it was a strong lineup that Ange played from the start. Definitely no complaints with the lineup. He went as strong as possible. But we just never really got fully going, did we, in this game? We did have a few chances early on. We had some spells where we were looking bright, but Burnley stayed in the game for long periods, and it took us until 10 minutes to go to finally find that moment of quality through Pedro Porro. But what do you put it down to, the fact that we just didn't quite see the best of Tottenham today?
I think that shows why we had to play our best lineup, because Burnley saw it as a free hit and they were the underdogs and they played really well. They made it incredibly tight and packed in that midfield. We weren't able to play these little kind of lovely 1- and 2-touch passes and break through their back line. We didn't make many chances for Richarlison up front, and in the end it took something, as you mentioned, absolutely class from Pedro Porro, knuckleball shot into the top left-hand corner from about 25-26 yards. But it was a battle, and in the FA Cup you just have to find ways to win, and we did that. That's the important thing. They had a gilt-edged chance right at the end from a corner that, you know, we were giving away the ball so badly at in the last kind of 5-10 minutes after we'd gone ahead. Obviously, we're not going to remember that. We're going to remember that we're through and we're in the draw, and with only one more round coming before all our players will be back at the end of January, that's the most important thing. But game management is something that Ange is going to have to coach into this team. The mentality to get yourself through these cup matches, which we've really failed at over the last 4 or 5 years. But yes, as I said, important thing, we're through. A really amazing bit of class kind of decided it for us. But yeah, I would say a lot of kind of average performances. Some really important points. Obviously, 벤탄쿠르 playing kind of 70, 80 minutes, really important. Some of our injured players going back on, Sessegnon as well. But yeah, absolutely terrible at the end when the keeper comes up for the corner, gets the flick on, because once again, we don't try and attack that first ball from a corner, something that we've been guilty of all season, if you ask me. And really, the striker there, to miss it from 3 yards out, I'll tell you what, the mood would be unbelievably different right now if that had gone in, and we'd be going to Turf Moor now and we would be worried. Yeah, 100%. And yeah, at the end of the day, look, we did sneak through, but in terms of how the game progressed, I think like the first half, we did have like the majority again of the ball. We had majority of the shots. Richarlison had a few openings, but Burnley did have the best chance of the game. In fact, you can probably look at it at the end of the game saying probably had the 2 best chances of the game. They both fell to the same guy. Amdouni, he had a really good chance in the first half, which he blazed over the bar. We got a bit of luck with that one. But we started the game with Kulusevski on the right, Johnson on the left, and we just weren't getting in those dangerous crossing positions that, you know, we've seen Richarlison gobble up in the last few weeks. And he did change it in the second half when Johnson went to the right. He looked a bit better, but maybe he tired, maybe it was a bit too little too late. But, you know, based on the you know, seeing how we progressed through that game, do you see him persisting with Johnson on the left? Do you see him maybe putting him on the right for next game? No, I think Johnson is too raw to be playing out of position at the moment. You know, we found out in the last few weeks that something that Johnson is great at is getting the ball out of his feet and getting an early crosser into the box for Richarlison to come onto. He wasn't able to make any of those opportunities really today, but yes, he did look more comfortable on the right, and that's why, for me, if he's going to be playing, he'll be playing in that position. How he finds room for Kulusevski in that instance, you know, remains to be seen, but it's better to have options, which we haven't had over the last month. In terms of how the game went, I think sometimes you just got to give credit to the opposition. Company, clearly a good tactical manager, not just as some of the pundits talk about, a manager who just plays good stuff and will get rolled over easily. He knew that the way to counteract the great Ange ball system is to pack that middle of the pitch, play that diamond, get as many men in there as you can and make it difficult. And they did make it difficult. It was a free punt for them. You could tell that, you know, they didn't care whether they lost or not, because, you know, they weren't expected. So what I mean by that, not that they didn't care, but just that they were willing to put everything in and see what happened. And in the end, as you said, they made the 2 best chances in the game, and it took that moment of magic from Pedro Porro. They're just showing a replay there with Vicario absolutely giving it large when it happened. We needed that. And Pedro is going to need to step up in the second half of the season with a few more goals. That's his first of the season, we think.
Yeah.
And he scored a few at the back end of last season. We're going to need some more of that. So great that he'll get a bit more confidence. I want to give some kind of props to the players that I also thought did well. Destiny Udogie, especially in a period of the first kind of half an hour, was excellent for Spurs. Always looks like our kind of most dangerous player in central midfield. And Rodrigo Bentancur, considering how long he's been out, it's clear that those 60 minutes or so he got in his legs against Bournemouth, absolutely vital, because he looked back to almost his best today. And it's just so simple with him. 1, 2 touch, give me the ball, I'll take it in with under pressure, I'll take it when I've got space, but either way, I will have already scanned the pitch behind me, and I will take it on the half turn and beat a man, or I will clip it round the corner, I'll know where the player is. And that's what we're missing from someone like Oliver Skipp. I don't want to use him as a scapegoat. I'm not a negative Skipp person. I think he's a good player, but he doesn't have the confidence at the moment. And he's been given chances kind of in the last 2 of 3 games, apart from that injury. And he just wasn't at it today. He just wasn't good enough. And I think realistically, we have to find ways to get players who are more comfortable on the ball at this pace in the team when we go to Old Trafford. I really do. I also, because I said I would if we got through with a clean sheet, big props to Emerson Royal and Ben Davies today. They were faultless, in my opinion, at centre-half. Emerson Royal did a lot of good sweeping up. We've not given him any real credit for that kind of stuff in the last few weeks, but he's done well. And Ben Davies is growing into that position. He's been excellent. So, you know, I've given Emerson Royal a fair bit of stick in terms of what he's like on the ball, but today, in terms of his pure defending, really good, and good to get another clean sheet. But you cannot help but just think about that last second opportunity for Burnley. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Is our name on the cup, boys? Is it too soon to say our name is on the cup because they missed an open goal from 3 yards out in the last kick of the game? Sim, is it on there?
It would have been an assist from the keeper as well, if that would have gone in, which would have been a hairy moment.
I don't use that term that a lot of people use, but that would have been that term. Grabbing like a replay from the jaws of victory.
100%. In terms of a few talking points from the game, obviously, with 10 minutes to go, we just scored the goal. Porro puts us 1-0 up. Really brilliant finish from him. And then he does kind of, I wouldn't say put the result in jeopardy, but, you know, it takes a big risk, doesn't he, those last 10 minutes? Brings on Dudley, brings on Scarlett, brings on Sessegnon. It was good to see him back on the pitch, by the way, after his long layoff. But, you know, I don't know, it's fair to say if we lost our way in the last 10 minutes, but definitely, we seem to lose a bit of aggression, a bit of fight in those last 10 minutes, and Burnley definitely did grow into the game, but we did end up getting over the line. But, you know, how do you feel now post-game about those changes Ange made with 10 minutes to go? I'm
glad you said aggression and fight, actually, because for me, what it was about was we just suddenly looked a bit lightweight. We weren't able to keep the ball. And actually, what you want to do in those... I remember this from years ago when Martin Jol started at Spurs. He used to talk about how many times we get into positions where we're 1-up, going into the last 10 minutes of the game, and we'd make bad decisions. Actually, the most important thing when you get into those situations is make good decisions, because the other team, they have to win it off you. So don't try and do it so quickly and in a paradise way. Keep the ball, make them come at you, lay it off easily, and the space will be there. And because those substitutions had been made, I felt in that last kind of few minutes, the only player on the pitch who had kind of like the stature and the physical strength to keep the ball was Kulusevski, and we weren't getting him on the ball enough. So although I think Scarlett is a talent, and Sessegnon obviously coming back from his injury, and Jamie Donnelly is highly rated within the club, I'm not sure necessarily that it was the right time to bring on 3 players who were quite easy to knock off the ball and to be tackled, and we just weren't able to keep that. That was disappointing. That led to them having a couple of chances that they shouldn't have had, and it could be a totally different story. But the reality is, it's a good result. Within the draw for the next round, we can watch the rest of the FA Cup over this weekend with our feet up, beer in hand, look to get a good draw for the 4th round at the end of this month. If we can get a good home draw against a lower league team, get through to that 5th round which has basically been our banana skin for the last few years. Not many better teams than us. We didn't perform well this tonight, but not many better teams than us in the division, in the Premier League, and therefore in the FA Cup. Who knows what could happen? Like I said, name's on the cup, mate. I'm just seeing a replay of that miss. He's literally 2 yards out on the volley, and he's managed to hit it wide when it's harder to miss the goal and score it. Blue and white ribbons on that cup.
Just on the flip side of what we're talking about with those subs, though, the fact that we did make it through and got over the line with them on the pitch, you know, will hopefully give them confidence going forward that they can get more involved and hopefully Ange can use them more.
It can't do them any harm. It can't do them any harm, but potentially, if we had conceded in that last second, that is the kind of thing that can do young players harm. And I'm thinking more of Jamie Donnelly, really. Brian Hill came on a bit earlier, and you know, as ever with Brian Hill, hustle and bustle, but knocked off the ball too easily. I cannot see a future for Brian Hill in Ange Bull's squad. Maybe he won't go this January because unless they're able to bring someone in. But I have to say at this point, and I would love to be proven wrong, going into the longer term, past the summer, I don't think Oliver Skipp and Brian Hill will be at this club.
Yeah, I don't completely disagree. Just as an overall look at like how we've been playing, you know, over the last few games now, and this is another game where we've got over the line, we've won, but again, not overly impressive. If you look at our previous few home games against Bournemouth, losing, then away to Brighton, at home to Everton, and away at Forest, that's like our last 5 games now. Although we've won 4 of our last 5, or 5 of our last 6 in general, the performance level's still not quite as it was, definitely in the previous few games. So is that a growing concern, or as long as we keep getting over the line, it's going to be okay?
I think it's totally understandable. Arguably 2 or 3 of the most important players to the way that the Ange Bull system is played are out. And without a doubt, the jewel in the crown, the most important player as to how we had that 10-match winning run at the beginning of the season, or certainly not losing run, 8 wins and 2 draws, is James Maddison. James Maddison, because it's not just that he's free in the pockets and the other players can find him. If he's being marked out of the game, or if they play it like they did today, if the opposition plays it where they make it incredibly tight, he was coming all the way back to his back line to get the ball, playing it into midfield, running off and getting it back, and therefore setting us up. So Christian Romero, almost equally as important, because the way that he plays on the ball from the back line is so superior to how Royal and Ben Davies are on the ball. Royal really only has, you know, most often he'll play it out to Porro on the right, and most often Ben Davies will play it out wide to Udogie or to the left-sided forward. And it's a bit kind of easy to read for opposition. So once Romero is back, and once Maddison is back, and of course Mickey van der Ven as well, so good to see him on the bench today, but I was also kind of pleased he didn't come on because hamstrings are so dangerous, and I would hate to see him have a relapse of that. But once we get those players back, and that's what I'm talking about in terms of getting to the end of January, that's the key thing. So the performances aren't there, you're right, but I don't expect the performances to be there because the key players to make that happen aren't available. So we're grinding out the results. We're still in the Cup. We're 1 point behind Arsenal and only 6 behind Liverpool in the league. We go to Old Trafford now. It's a bit of a free hit to us, I think, because often at Old Trafford we get turned over even when Man United are dross, and currently Man United are total dross, but they may still find a way against us. But we will be the underdog, I think, at Old Trafford. It'll be a big pressure night for them. And maybe we can go there and get a win, which would be absolutely enormous.
100%. And the fact that we've got these players back and getting back to full fitness going into that game is only going to benefit us. And we did make it through the Cup. So that's, look, big news. And that's what everyone wanted. Everyone wants us to have a good Cup run. Everyone wants to take it seriously. You're going to have, peaks and troughs and difficult challenges along the way, especially, early in the rounds when you're playing Premier League teams and you don't have all your players available. It's always going to be a bit of a slog and a bit of a challenge, but we got through at the end of the day, and let's hope come the next round, maybe we have more players back. Maybe we have Maddison back for the next round. Maybe Van der Ven is ready to start in the next round. Bentancur is going to have a few more minutes in his leg. So I think it's very positive. And look, at the end of the day, we did go over the line and we are in the hat for the 4th round. So big up to all of you guys out there. That is your instant match reaction. Let us know in the comment section below what you thought of today's game.